All right, thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Mike Kerwin. I serve as President and CEO of the Somerset County Business Partnership. It is my pleasure to welcome everyone here today. Something we haven't done before, which is an educational forum focusing on a very important issue to our community. And we felt it was a proper role for the business partnership to sponsor this program so we can get the information we need and have a discussion as fellow residents. If you see on the insert, it gives us our take on how we got to this point. In a nutshell, I think it's fair to summarize our position as one where, thanks to the work that we've done as a community for the last 20 years, Somerset County has emerged as a leader in the area of shared services. And in fact, to the point where the initial goals that we laid out that we needed to achieve have been achieved. Shared services is now part of our culture, and every single municipal entity in this county is part of at least one shared services agreement. So the question at that point was really, how do you take it to the next level, particularly in light of the fact that the state was facing extraordinary financial challenges. So through a very productive discussion we had with the Somerset County freeholders, we agreed that the freeholders should take the lead, and we would support their effort at looking at consolidation of services across multiple jurisdictions, starting with, and I give them credit for having the courage to start with this, starting with the issue of police. So we officially endorsed that, and we want to recognize freeholder Pat Walsh, freeholder Peter Palmer. We'll talk about Jack in a second. Support your decision to actually look at this issue. So that's where we are. We're kind of a small crowd, and I think I know most people in here. So this lends itself to a very informative give and take session. And with that, I also want to recognize Senator Kip Bateman, who's here. And also John Donadio, co-chair of our Legislative Affairs Committee. And Mayor Joanne Lipkat is out. There you go. We are pleased and thank the Raritan Valley Community College for sponsoring us. This is a room that wasn't here a while ago. We were talking about having this resource to be able to bring the community together. And I think that's exactly why it was created. So without further ado, I'd like to invite Casey to come up and say a few words of introduction.
Thank you, Mike. Welcome to your community college, a shared service since 1986. I'm always glad to welcome community members to the college for the purpose of dealing with community issues. It's a great model for our students. We're able to tell them the things that go on in the conference room as an example of the way engaged citizenship is a part of what we hope for their future and what we hope to inspire as part of their education. So having events like this on campus is important to us. We're grateful to have the space to be able to do it. And we think, like the business partnership, that these cross-community entities, like the partnership, like the college, have the wonderful opportunity to be the conveners for our community, to get the important questions on the table, and to model, in my case, for our students, the way those community issues can be solved. So thank you for being here, and again, welcome to your community college.
All right. Now it is also my pleasure to introduce freeholder Jack Chiarelli. Jack is instrumental in leading this effort, and he's going to now be able to lay the groundwork as to how this study came about, where we are. As you can tell by the format and the agenda, after Jack gives his overview, we're going to then introduce Prosecutor Soriano, give us a little bit more detail, and then we're fortunate to have every subcommittee chair here who's going to give a quick update. So we'll have all the facts, and then we'll have a discussion. So with that, Jack, thank you.
Thank you, Mike. I'm so pleased that my company in the private sector is a member of an organization that continues to advocate for a vibrant economic region and do forums such as this. So I'm very, very pleased that my company, and I know those of you who are business folks, you too, I'm sure, appreciate it. I'm so very proud to be a freeholder in a community that doesn't just talk about its challenges, but tries to do something about them. And we know that one of the challenges in New Jersey is property taxes. We have a property tax crisis. And there are 5 reasons why property taxes are high. I'd like to address just 2 of them because it's really the reason why we're here today to discuss this. One of the reasons why property taxes are high is because government is a human resource intensive business. And any of us, and the director of our library system is shaking his head, know that human resources means that it's also a cost-intensive business. So the question that the freeholders posed to the Somerset County managers 3 years ago was, how could we maybe, as corporate America has, transform our cost structure? One of the business principles that comes to transforming a cost structure is if you can produce your product or service, if you can improve the quality of your product or service at less the cost, you do it every time. No matter what business you're in, if you can improve the quality of your service or product at less cost, you do it every single time. So with that in mind, and with the notion of transforming our cost structure in government, we set out with the Municipal Managers Association, who are the chief operating officers in each one of our 21 towns. And we decided to pick 4 areas in which we maybe, just maybe, we could transform the cost structure. The 4 areas were police, tax assessment, construction code enforcement, and municipal courts. Why police first? Because it is 60 to 70% of every municipal budget, and because it is the most challenging, legislatively, operationally, all the above. And therefore, because it was the most difficult, it needed the most time. So we've been at this now for 3 years. And 2.5 years ago, what the county did, and again in partnership with the municipal managers, is we hired the most well-known consultant in Somerset County to do an analysis. He visited every one of our police departments. And for the first time in New Jersey, what we did was, within a county, aggregate the total cost of every one of your police departments. That total cost in Somerset County, to make the math simple, is right about $100 million. Then he put forth a prototype. And that prototype says that there's the opportunity to possibly improve our law enforcement at $18 million less cost. Now, let me say this, first and foremost. Every one of our 19 police departments is doing a magnificent job. But just because something is magnificent, just because something is great, doesn't mean it can't be better. So this study is just as much about operational efficiency as it is cost efficiency. Can we take a great product, law enforcement, make it better at less the cost? The consultant says yes, to the tune of an $18 million savings. That's pretty compelling. The next step was to have a task force made up of citizens, elected officials, law enforcement personnel under the direction of one person to analyze. Take that consultant's proposal, his hypothesis, his recommendation, turn it upside down. And that's what this leadership has been doing for the past 9 months. It's what they'll do for 3 months more. So with that, I think it's very, very exciting, and we welcome the business community's input as to the impact it has. I was talking with Frank from Somerset Hills Towing. This is a perfect forum for the business community to be here and to hear and to voice, provide their input about this whole analysis, which I find very, very exciting. So with that, it's my privilege to introduce somebody who, like me, is a native of Raritan. We played football and basketball on the streets of Raritan. I dated his sister. His parents were patrons of my father's restaurant. But on the more serious side, it gives me great pleasure to introduce him because aside from planning and preparing our community for the onslaught of things like Hurricane Irene, this is probably the single greatest public policy challenge this county government has ever endeavored to tackle. So just who do you have to lead it? We've got the right person in terms of his intellect, his organizational skills, his management approach and style, and complemented by this fantastic table here, dais of leadership. They're doing a wonderful job. But with no further ado, Somerset County Prosecutor Jeff Suriano.
Thank you for those kind words, Jack. I guess my sister thanks you also. As Jack said, I am Jeff Soriano, the Somerset County Prosecutor, and in my capacity as the Somerset County Prosecutor, I am also the chairman of the Prosecutors Task Force on Regionalized Policing. On behalf of the group that's set forth in front of you, I would like to thank the Business Partnership for allowing us the opportunity to participate in this educational forum. I'd also personally like to thank Mike Kerwin for brokering or at least fostering a relationship between the Somerset County Prosecutor's Office and the business community, the Somerset County Business Partnership. I think it's important, and I know that Mike thinks that that relationship is important. We're here today to provide you with some insight into this task force and what we've been doing over the course of the last 9 months, but we're also, as Jack said, and I think Mike said, we're also here today to get some feedback from this group, from the business-minded perspective as to your insights generally with respect to law enforcement in general terms, and specifically with respect to the idea of regionalization. Before getting into the specifics of the task force, I think it's very important to, Jack went over it in a very quick fashion, but I think it's very important to talk about the process which predated the formation of the task force. And Jack, I did steal a couple of your slides from your prior presentations, and I hope you don't mind. I think the process is important, and it's this historical review which is necessary because it's going to remind us all of the very important steps that, as I say, predated this task force. Now, many of you have either heard about or read about other efforts to regionalize policing services throughout the state of New Jersey. Morris County had an initiative, Mercer County, Camden County, Bergen County. They've all discussed in one fashion or another consolidation initiatives. There are some smaller efforts also. When we talk about Bergen County, there are local municipalities that are looking to merge or consolidate their forces. It's not just on a regional level. And there are indeed differences in all of these initiatives, but I believe it's, again, the process which sets Somerset County far apart from the others. So as Jack said, as far back as 2007, the county freeholders and the municipal managers got together, led predominantly by your fellow business partnership member and then freeholder, Jack Chettarelli, as well as all the freeholders, and the Municipal Managers Association, and they identified, as Jack has said, certain areas that would be ripe for analysis, looking upon the delivery of improved municipal services at a reduced cost to taxpayers. Now, again, that's 2007. Jack says 3 years ago. I think it's actually, we're into the 4th year now. A regionalized police department was one of the identified 12 areas. And you need to know, and Jack talked about this, but the process actually was slated to advance in 3 different phases. So in phase 1, the consultant Thomas Banker was hired, and he essentially did a very rudimentary or elementary feasibility analysis. And I say rudimentary because now that we're down into the weeds, and you'll see that as it progresses, it really was. He looked at the big picture. He went out and collected the total cost of law enforcement in Somerset County, and he identified regionalized law enforcement organizations predominantly in the East Coast with a demographic profile that was similar to Somerset County. And then he compared those. And this is pretty much a breakdown. It's a Chettarelli stolen slide, but this is what Jack has used in the past to break down exactly what Mr. Banker did in his study. It was ultimately determined that there was a potential for significant savings. And at that point, no monetary figure was advanced, but it was a potential. So the freeholders decided, let's go to phase 2.